So in the movies, the bad boy is strikingly handsome. Is handsome. It's early, guys. He hides behind his bangs. He wears cool jackets. He is a musician or a poet and makes you feel something, even if that feeling is confusion and pain. Why are you attracted to him? It's not because of those reasons. It's because of a few, and there are layers here. The first layer is that he may smell familiar. So what I mean by that is, if you grew up in a chaotic space where there's addiction in the family, where people had to grow up fast, where people are walking on eggshells, where there wasn't a lot of emotional milk, where the space was unsafe, then you are wired to be pulled to something that smells familiar as you grow up, right? And the bad boy usually has addiction in his genes. So whether it's his parents or higher up in the family tree, or he may be an addict, may know it or not. And addicts are chaotic. Addicts live in extremes. Addicts are impulsive and reckless and can be selfish. And addicts are also charismatic. And I think a lot of times an addict comes off as exciting, of course, in the beginning, until you actually invest in something and you realize it's a dysfunction. But that smells familiar. So the first layer is, this is something that smells familiar, that you're used to, and the water is warm, right? The second layer can be now, if you lived a completely different life, meaning that this person, this bad boy, is from the other side of the emotional tracks, and you grew up in a very safe, with lots of support and love and emotional milk, and you grew up in a very stable world, if that was your childhood, then the bad boy is someone that's so different that, and this leads to the second layer, that you may want to fix him, right? So there's that draw, right? And usually the bad boy doesn't want to be fixed, and so if you want to fix him and he doesn't want to be fixed, there's this chase, there's this exciting dynamic of subtle control. It's not stagnant, meaning there's always movement and a chasing, which of course leads to lots of pain and dysfunction. But in the beginning, that is exciting. In the beginning, that is interesting and different and not boring. So that layer could be happening. And I think the third layer is if you grew up with something taken from you. And it doesn't matter if it's your voice, your childhood, maybe you had to grow up fast and take care of someone. That shit wires you a certain way. And I think that's the whole demographic of Al-Anon, people who grew up in chaos, people who grew up too fast, people who grew up with something taken from them. Usually it positions you to be drawn to the quote-unquote addict, if that makes sense. So there's that magnetic pull. So there are these many layers when it comes to why you're attracted to the bad boy. It's not because of his cool hair or that he's strikingly handsome. I know the movies portray him that way, but it's the stuff that's running underneath that you're not aware of until you try to build something with this person and you realize it's not worth the pain. So what do you do? Well, here's the good news. I believe that the new bad boy is actually good. And what I mean by that is, because of the explosion of wellness and now, less stigma with therapy, us wanting to look inward, this wash over just the world in general of self-betterment becoming a good thing and not something we hide behind, but something that we are running toward and proud of. Because of that, I think there's less tolerance in relationships, especially for dysfunction. I think that we have all experienced pain and no longer want it. And because of that, our love buds have changed, our lenses have changed. And now, instead of chasing after the quote unquote bad boy, or it's usually young love, we are now interested in a good person, a person with tools, right? And so the bad boy now has become good. And so I think part of it is just naturally the way that the world is going. And then the other thing, which is good for you, and then the other thing is to be aware of your patterns, who you're attracted to. And if you're not aware of them, you're just going to fall into the same dynamic. You're going to chase after the only thing that's just going to change your faces, right? So to actually then make a conscious choice, even if it feels like there's something missing or this isn't that exciting, to make a choice that is based on healthy, maybe over that crazy, explosive, dynamic attraction, right? I think a lot of times that lightning in the bottle is not attraction, but it's dysfunction disguised as attraction. So making better choices, making healthier choices, and then sitting in that and working through it. And I think that when you do that, when you swim past the breakers, your love buds change. So then what you used to be attracted to starts to repel you, and then what you're attracted to now is healthy. And I think that's when people get to the island. You know, I think that's when you can actually start to build something that is I was gonna say Blue Lagoon, because I think that story's romantic, but I don't know if it's romantic. But start to build something on an island that is sustainable, and then it's a new definition of love.